上当百年，欺世大官。
Hello everyone, welcome to Deception of the World. How many people actually died during the Tiananmen Square massacre? Disclosing the real number of deaths became an eternal fear of the Chinese Communist Party. Welcome to like and subscribe to this new channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell. In 1991, on the train back home from Beijing, I talked to a middle-aged man who worked for a bank about the Tiananmen Square massacre and asked him how many people actually died in Beijing. He told me that a conservative estimate was at least 1,000 people. Now, 31 years later, no one has told me the exact number. The disclosure of the numbers of deaths during the June 4th Tiananmen Square massacre became an eternal fear for the Chinese Communist Party. The more detailed and specific injuries and death toll were disclosed at the Chinese Academy of Social Science seminar in early March 1996 titled On Current Social Conditions, but the detailed meeting was an internal document that could not be made public or communicated to their subordinates. The following is a transcript of that meeting taken from public available information. According to the Ministry of Public Security statistics on casualties around the country, 931 people died and more than 22,000 were injured during the political unrests and riots that occurred in May, April, and early June 1989. The number of fatalities in Beijing was 523, including 57 Beijing students, 45 Beijing residents, 171 foreign students, 229 foreign workers, residents, and farmers, and 21 unidentified. Additionally, the Ministry of Public Security reported to the State Council for the fifth time on June 10, 1990, titled Summary of Statistics on Casualties in Unrest and Riots in Various Places with the following figures. Beijing, 523 deaths and more than 1,570 injuries among citizens, 45 deaths and more than 6,240 injuries among military and police. Chengdu, 277 deaths and more than 2,100 injuries among citizens, 9 deaths and more than 550 injuries among military and police. Wuhan, 12 deaths and more than 170 injuries among citizens, 125 injuries among military and police. Guiyang, 29 deaths and more than 290 injuries among citizens, more than 150 injuries among military and police. Harbin, 7 deaths and more than 90 injuries among citizens, more than 190 injuries among military and police. Zhengzhou, 6 deaths and more than 130 injuries among citizens, more than 150 injuries among military and police. Lanzhou, 21 deaths and more than 200 injuries among citizens, 2 deaths, more than 120 injuries among military and police. The Beijing municipal government and the martial law force reported the following information files on casualty statistics. Reported at 6 p.m. on June 4th. Reported at the scene and confirmed after arriving at the hospital, 149 deaths. Second report on June 8th, 261 deaths. Third report on June 18th, 419 deaths. Fourth report on August 15th, 419 deaths. Fifth report on October 15th, 485 deaths. Sixth report on November 22nd, 485 deaths. Seventh report on January 5th, 1990, 490 deaths. Eighth report on April 10th, 1990, 515 deaths. The above figures were disclosed by the Chinese Communist Ministry of Public Security, the Beijing Municipal Government, and the Chinese Communist Army. These numbers are official numbers, but most people find them not convincing at all. But it is at least a more realistic number when compared to what Yuanmu said on June 17, 1989. Yuanmu was the spokesman and director of research office of the State Council of the Chinese Communist Party. When answering a question from an NBC reporter, he said that the martial law force did not kill or injure a single person in the course of their clearing mission in Tiananmen Square. I'm afraid that the true number of deaths will remain secret, and perhaps it will only be revealed on the day when the June 4th incident is cleared up. In any case, it is an undisputed fact that the Chinese Communist Party shot and killed students and civilians, and that it used dum-dum bullets, which have long been banned by the Hague Convention due to its ability to expand inside the human body. Many sources now say that Deng Xiaoping, who was said to be retired but was actually in control of the CCP's military power at that time, gave the order to shoot, and Li Peng and others who agreed with him also cannot escape culpability. So where were they on the eve of the June 4th massacre? It was reported that many Chinese communist leaders hid in underground bunkers that night to prevent accidents. Information shows that Beijing Air Raid Shelter, which can accommodate more than 300,000 people, is currently the world's largest air raid fortification. The underground bunkers of the Chinese communist leaders were built in secret places and connected by underground passages. These bunkers are also connected to important departments above ground. For example, there is a network of underground passages between the Chegongzhuang subway station and Guanyuan, which has an underground wartime command center, leading from underground all the way to the factory bridge where the Ministry of National Defense is located, Zhongnanhai, and the Great Hall of People. It is said that there are also some hidden stations in the Beijing subway that are not known to the public. For example, the end station of Subway Line 1 is not the Apple Park but another location. The fact that the communist leaders themselves chose to hide before ordering the massacre reflected their concern about the situation. What if the army turned against them and joined hands with the people who no longer wanted to forbear the evil regime? In January 2015, British media reported that newly declassified Canadian diplomatic documents showed that during the 1989 Tiananmen Square incident in Beijing, several members of the then Standing Committee of the Central Political Bureau tried to transfer large sums of money to Swiss banks through the Swiss ambassador. This indicates that the core of the Chinese Communist Party at that time was more concerned about this situation than the outside world has estimated. This information was leaked to Canadian diplomats by the then Swiss ambassador to Beijing, who asked for confidentiality. Although the reports are not confirmed, our private sources also agreed that the CCP leaders at that time did have the intention of fleeing the country if the situation got out of hand. In the end, the Chinese people missed a big opportunity to overthrow the CCP, and to the relief of Deng Xiaoping, not many troops actually resisted orders, and more soldiers went on a killing spree after listening to the lies the CCP told them. The CCP's so-called People's Liberation Army killed the people with their own hands. Millions of Chinese were either killed, injured, exiled, or have kept quiet since then, asking no questions. But for 31 years, the souls of the Tiananmen Square massacre victims have never disappeared. Until justice is brought upon, they will continue to haunt the Chinese Communist Party, and haunt their murderers at all times. That's the end of today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next time.